Welcome to the Nature Journal Educators Forum. If it's your first time joining us, this is going to be a lot of fun. You're going to find that there are some very interesting conversations that go on in this space every week. It's really cool. Just want to introduce myself and our co-host today and our special guest star. Hi, I'm Jack. John Muir Laws, and longtime nature journaler and curious person, and I like water bears. Also present, the amazing Evea Moore, the mad botanist, and Billie Jo Reid are all the way visiting us all the way from Alaska, not Alaska, sorry, no, that would be cold. You're in Canada. From Canada, and I got the right general part of the globe, which is close. Billie Jo, would you like to introduce our guest star today?
Yes, absolutely. So this beautiful human right here is my amazing colleague. This is Christine Chappell. She has been working in the outdoors since she stepped pretty much out of university. She's been with conservation areas for a number of years. She's been here at the Peel District School Board for 15 years. And she is amazing, a beautiful soul, really connected and grounded with the earth, and she's amazing, and we love her here very much. And she is my twinning person that I do my nature journaling with here at work. So yeah, she's joining us today. We are sharing a computer, even though this like weird line makes it look like we are split screen. We are actually literally sitting beside each other and hoping that our internet works out well. And so, yeah, we're going to share with all of you a little bit of what we did at a conference this year, but maybe we'll throw it back over to Evea really quickly for community event updates and calendar stuff. You want to do that first?
Sure thing.
Yeah, let's do that first, Evea.
Okay, so we have, so tonight we have Marley's Nature Journal show, and it turns out the announcement I made yesterday was wrong. He is going to be talking about Costa Rica tonight. His show is not still in Ecuador, it's in Costa Rica. So he'll be giving a show tonight about that. Again, so folks know he is safe and sound. He appreciated how the community rallied around him and came to his aid. So that's news from Marleyland. Then tomorrow morning we have Pencil Miles and Chill at its usual 8, and then we have the one of Jack's classes in the Preparation for Africa series, which Jack and Billie Jo are co-hosting. And so it is called 4 on the Floor, and it will be about drawing African mammals. It will be awesome. Everybody is invited, and then I'll try to get it up on the on Jack's website and YouTube as quickly as possible. And I might even make a playlist for, the Africa series, so that way they'll all be together, nice and neat. If Jack wants me to. And okay, cool, then I will. And so then we have Saturday, Pencil Mouse and Chill at its usual 3 o'clock afternoon. So folks know, also happy last day of November. I hope that everybody's November went well. And also just wanted to offer folks, take a moment if you need, at some point to give yourselves compassion, because this is the holiday season now that we're in full gear, for a lot of us at least. And I know that for folks it can be stressful, either stress because of family interactions that you don't like, or sometimes family interactions that don't happen because you two are far apart. Or some folks just might be very lonely, or there's pressure with gifts, whatever it is. Just take the time to schedule some self-care into this upcoming holiday season. And also, if anybody is lonely on Christmas, there will be a Pencil Mouse and Chill on Christmas. So nobody should have to be alone on major holidays. So There might be more coming up, but I will add that into I'll add the community calendar link into the chat. Also, so folks know, at some point soon, the community calendar on Jack's page will be moving over to its new home at the Wild Wonder Foundation's website. I'll be putting that link in too. It's not there quite yet, but it will be. But all of Jack's original events will still be on Jack's calendar. So yeah. So if you want to hang out with Jack, then you can go to either Jack's website or Wild Wonder website. I know I'll be there. and then, but if you want the community calendar, then it will be on the Wild Wonder website. And also there will be opportunities for others, like namely all of you, to add events of your own, if you'd like. And I shall pass it back now to Jack, Billie, Joe, and Christine. Thank you.
All right, and I'm also going to get out of the way here. So folks, what's going to happen is we're going to just hear a little bit about this workshop that Christine and Billie Joe did, and they'll give us some of those ideas and part of that. And then we're going to see what that sparks in terms of a conversation with all of us rascals. Billie Joe and Christine, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for sharing this information with us. And the floor is yours.
Amazing. Okay, cool. It's nice to see everybody. I see all your little faces up in the top icon. So I'm just going to explain a little bit about what the conference that we went to, because it's Ontario specific. So I guess Canada specific, but mostly Ontarians come. It's called COEO, which is the Council of Outdoor Educators of Ontario. And so they run a couple of conferences every year, and their fall conference is the big one. And it's always run in September. And it's a full weekend. They get presenters from all over the place to come, and it's all geared towards getting students outside. So we get teachers that are currently teaching, we get retired teachers, we get outdoor ed instructors, and also student teachers. So brand new kiddos that are still in university, or maybe are just getting out of university and trying to figure out how to, get into the classrooms and go from there. So last year I did a little introductory to nature journaling. And then this fall, Chris and I decided to do one that's called, we called it nature journaling, integrating it as a tool in your classroom. Because what we're seeing, our curriculum is different than what you have in the States, and we don't have the those core science standards. We don't have that here that we talk about all the time in the forum. We don't have that. So what we're trying to do between us and some of our staff members in here is try to get the word out that nature journaling isn't something that you just do once and then you kind of like tick it in the box, like, oh, we already did that. Or it's just an art thing, or it's just a language thing, but we really wanted them to understand that it's something that they could be hitting and using in each and every section of the curriculum. So we sort of met for dinner and we kind of hashed out some ideas. So I'm going to share my screen for the little task cards that we kind of made up. And basically what we did was we invited everybody in, we kind of gave like an introductory to what nature journaling is, and then we really wanted to like get them into it. So we handed out the task cards, sent them off to Nature Journal based on those task cards. Then you'll see in a second that they're split into different themes. We then got them to come together with their own little themes, discuss how that was, what they learned, how they can integrate it. And then we brought back the entire group together to do a big sharing session. So I'm going to get Christine, she made up the task cards. So I'm going to get her to go through some of those. So just give me 10 seconds here to pull that up. Okay, can everybody see that? Yes. And I'm just going to move that out. Yes. Okay. So yeah, so turn over Chris.
Yeah, so again, the reason we did it this way is because it's sometimes difficult. I think we all know that unless we say the word curriculum, not everybody understands or thinks that this might be something worthwhile for their students in the classroom. So we thought, okay, we know the value of nature journaling, but to really to hook more people, especially teachers, and to help them really see the value for their students, we thought, okay, let's really link it to the curriculum. So we did it based on the different parts, different curriculum parts, topics, themes. So with every one of the cards, we we did an introduction with them about the general nature journaling statements. I notice, I wonder, it reminds me of talking about the metadata and so on, and put that on every card. And then below that, we linked it to a curriculum theme. So the top part was just a reminder, and then the bottom part was their task. So we broke the group into groups of 3 or 4, and every group had sort of a different theme, and they were working first individually on the task, and then they came together to discuss. So this is language, and for this one, we asked them to write a poem. So either haiku, acrostic, or another poetry structure of their choice, or to write a paragraph expressing their feelings about their connection to the land, which is very much a very important theme here in Ontario schools right now, linking curriculum as well to Indigenous ways of knowing and connections to the land. So that's our language. Math, we thought, okay, let's focus. Math is huge, so let's focus it, bring it down a little bit specifically to talk about graphing. And really, these are just examples for them. Okay, so this task, we want you to graph something. Here's a few examples, like for example, bird calls, flower colors, how many squirrels you've seen, and then create a graph using that information. Science was the next. For this, we chose adaptations as a theme. So we're asked them to make observations based on an adaptations lens. So they are sitting, looking around them, noticing things around them related to adaptations, behavioral, physical, what questions they have, answers, so on. Yeah, and again, making connections. That's okay. Yeah.
I think I missed.
Ah.
No. Oh yeah. No, wait, hold on. I think
That's it. Oh yeah. So this is all the ones we're showing you right now are elementary.
Yeah.
And
oh yeah.
then we did one. Yeah.
Hold on. I hear things. Oh yeah, we go. Science diversity.
That's
We didn't
yeah.
do biodiversity.
No. So this was for the intermediate and senior, intermediate levels. So again, with the science focus, but this was for biodiversity. And in this case, we're asking them to make a quadrat, very simple quadrat, 2 paces on each side, and then record how many plant species they see or evidence of animals, same idea. And then they can record using a method of choice. So tallying, we gave the example as tallying, and then they move to a second location. Yeah, so this again, for intermediate, this was geography. Again, tying in with our connections to the land, finding your sense of place. In this case, we asked them to do a map. So we've done that, sound maps before. So same idea. So using their senses, make observations about the world around them, the topography, the physical features, any animals they see, anything they consider significant. It's okay. I think the only one we missed was the kindergarten one.
Yeah, but where did... Oh, there it is. Okay. I was like, it's gotta be here somewhere.
And for this, because people often do say, well, how do we do this with the little ones? They're not writing yet, this, that, and the other. So this, we said, okay, do it a little more broadly and more simplified, using pictures, symbols, single words to record. Suggesting to them too that you can come together as a group, work together if this were a class. But we just asked the people in the group to sort of put themselves in the place of their students and observe based on shapes or colors or textures or size, sort of taking inspiration from the walking curriculum as well when we did this.
So yeah, so just if anyone's unsure about what the walking curriculum is, that is a curriculum that was developed, out of normally I speak so loud. A curriculum that was developed by Gillian Judson. She's from British Columbia, and she's working out of Simon Fraser University, and she created this walking curriculum, which is basically like a whole book full of activities. It's like getting kids outside and to get them walking and talking and getting them to connect to the land and all these different ways of learning through walking and talking, which is pretty amazing. And so there's another book that is with that sort of starts to introduce like art with that as well. So it's kind of like nature journaling, but with like a little bit of a different focus. But again, something else that you can kind of integrate in with that as well. So with the kindergarten sheets as well, we did sort of use Kate's writer's idea of creating a sheet that had different shapes on them. So the idea is that the kindergarten, if they were learning about the number 3, that there was like a triangle with 3 compartments that they would have to get like find something that had 3 petals or 3 leaves or whichever it was to try to reinforce that number of the week or the letter of the week or whatever it is that they were doing. So the reason also that we sort of did it like this is we had 1 hour for this presentation. So we tried to jam as much as possible into that 1 hour, which is why we came up with the idea of the task cards to split people up, but to then be able to get as much of that information out as possible in terms of getting everybody to understand that there was like a geography hit, there was a science hit, there was, you know, a kindergarten hit, a literacy hit, but be able to do that all within an hour. The only way to sort of, we could figure out to do it is to kind of split everybody up. And then we had everybody come back and we had some really great conversations. Then what we also did was we created a little sample zine. Sorry, just a second. I've got Teams popping up here as well. We created this little zine. So we created like a little journal book for everybody that gave them some extra information. So what is nature journaling? You know, what it's about. This little picture here, we had all in a previous nature journaling forum kind of come up with something that kind of looked like this. We know how nature journaling can be used as a tool. So we sort of gave it a little bit more information. We gave them some tips and tricks on feedback, some takeaways. We gave resources and then some of our contact information in there as well. So again, trying to get the most information that we could into that 1 hour session. Yeah. Did you want to say?
No, I was just going to say that's the side book. So it folds into just a tiny little book.
Yeah, which I think we did in Wild Wonders. If anyone came to Wild Wonders last year, I think we learned how to do Zine journals in there. So that is the presentation that we did in a very quick 1 hour, but we had over 27 people show up, which was pretty awesome. And we were able to have some really great conversations for the weekend with other people who sort of were talking with others and, you know, et cetera, et cetera. Unfortunately, we were supposed to do it again, but the 2 of us were very sick and we weren't able to go to another conference, but we're going to try to run some PD here in our own board as well. But then hopefully it'll be a few hours that we can then really sort of dive a little bit deeper and have teachers really sort of engage and go a little bit deeper into all those parts and seeing the value in it. So that's what we did. Maybe, does anyone have any questions before we sort of start chatting about, you know, what other people might do in this situation? We really don't think we did anything groundbreaking by no means, but it's what we did. So we wanted to share that and then hopefully use that as a springboard to have a conversation about how else can we engage teachers that might not really know about nature journaling and get it sort of going and get people to understand that there's such a plethora of wealth and, you know, such a stupid experience that can really come from nature journaling.
And also really to help teachers to justify to their admin why they are going outdoors and why nature journaling. Still people have the concept of, they hear the word journaling and they think it's a writing journal. So, and we're finding in our board here in Peel that Billie, Joe and I were talking about how administration is sometimes giving teachers, they're questioning them about taking their students outside. Taking them outside. An art teacher was questioned why she's going outside every time she does an art lesson with her students, because what on earth can they learn going outside? This is steps backwards. So we were thinking, okay, well, then we have to sort of try to help teachers have something that they can go to their admin and say, no, here's why we're doing this. Here's what we're hitting. Essentially, everything is curriculum. We know that. I mean, everything is. We can always tie it in somehow. So hopefully we've given them a little of that they've got a little ammunition for that.
Yeah,
Back a better word.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's what we really need, because we just found out today that even an admin has decided to cancel outdoor recess for the winter, which is really unheard of around here. That's the first time we've ever heard of that even happening. And the reason is not because it's cold, not because it's snowing, because it makes a mess in the hallway. And we're just like, what? And so we really feel like we're pushing extra hard to really get them to understand that those curriculum hits are happening. And the funny part is that we're moving to a more student-centered curriculum, and there's nothing more student-centered than nature journaling. So we feel a little bit like we're hitting our heads against the wall, but we're super excited about it. We're just going to keep pushing forward. So that's sort of where we're at this point. So yeah, if anyone has any questions or anything like that, please just like chime in, or we can just, start spitballing people. Yeah, Jack, for sure.
Oh, this is really, really exciting. Thank you so much for sharing that. And so what I'm seeing is that in this short period of time, you gave people an overview. You showed them that this can connect to and integrate with all sorts of different academic disciplines. And you actually got these teachers to go outside and do something in that short period of time. That is really impressive. And I'm inspired that you got all that into that time. If you, in order to kind of boil it down to that, you had to leave some things on the cutting room floor. If you had more time or time to do a part 2, what are some things that you wish you had time to incorporate this, but just the time and logistics of that 1 hour period? I mean, that's a ton you did in 1 hour. I'm blown away.
Yeah.
But
it's a great question. So yeah, so I think we're probably going to say the same thing.
Multi?
Yeah.
Multi-session.
Multi-sessions, and also, like, multiple sessions is what we would have liked to see. And I think one of those would be actually an introduction to nature journaling would be the thing that we were the most worried about, is getting them to really understand the I notice, the I wonder, the it reminds me of, and words, pictures, and numbers. That was the part that we discussed in the beginning, but again, on such a short time frame, which is why we then put it on the top of each task card. And being adults, we were hoping that when they read that would sort of sink in a little bit more about sort of what it is that we were kind of asking. We also had our own journals there as well, and held them up as examples. So I think the biggest thing is that we had like another hour, we would have done an introduction. This is how you do it. This is what it looks like. And now this is how you can integrate it, and then give them the second nature journaling task of going out. The first time we probably would have said, go find something, and then we're going to sort of process this together or whatever, and then give them the task cards and go from there. That was the one thing that kept on coming up, was like, how are they going to know how to do it? Blah, blah, blah. But I think it worked out in the end, like from what we saw people sharing, like as adults, I think it did come together, but it definitely would have been not as successful if it was kids. Like, there's no way that would have been something that we would have been able to do with students like that. There's just too much uncertainty and too much unknown at that point. But again, our target audience was educators or students who are in university to become teachers. Does that answer your? Yeah.
We've also, I mean, there's.
You have to talk about her.
It's frenzy, right? When we're there, I mean, even us talking now, we're talking mile a minute, and it's frenzy, which is in some ways anti-nature journaling. I mean, it's about slowing down, it's about observing, and so that kind of goes against the grain. So we've talked about PD sessions that we would like to do for teachers, and it would be great if we could do multi-session. So the first session is strictly about the process of nature journaling. I notice, I wonder, reminds me of, so on. The next one, okay, so we've got our framework. This time we're going to focus on language and how we can use that framework to focus on language in the classroom. And then the next one would be math, and then science, so on. So if we could do multi pieces, that would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so in this, did you have time that they actually took their journals and they went out and they did a little project outside?
We did that.
And then they
The whole thing
was
outside.
outside.
what?
The whole thing was outside.
The whole thing was outside.
Thing was outside.
Right.
The whole thing was outside, but yes, we gave them, we probably cut 20 minutes into them going out and sitting in the forest alone to journal. It was probably 20 minutes.
This is impressive. And then
Our session did run a little long.
no, I'm also noticing that you left time for them to have discussions about it. So much of how our meaning making was in those discussions.
That was the key. That was the key part for them to really experience it for themselves. But it was really important for us to get them to have a conversation afterwards and to really share that. And then each teacher is coming from a different grade level, a different region in Ontario. Like, you're all over the place. Some teachers are like downtown rural downtown urban, and some are rural, you know, and so we wanted them to all to be able to come back together to discuss not only what their experience was, but how they might implement that into their school setting and how that conversation might help spark another teacher to be like, oh, that's what I could do that here, I could do that there. So that discussion part was the most important part of it for us too. Like the doing and then the discussion, like those two things had to happen in order for that to become successful and to get people on board is how we felt.
So I want to send my congratulations to both of you. For what I have a tendency to do is I get way too long-winded in my intro, and then there's not time for doing those other two things. But you were able to kind of trim that front part. You got people out doing it. You then gave them time to discuss it. I think that those two things are amazing and really huge. And for any of us kind of thinking about kind of teaching teachers how to do this, that's what I'd like to kind of move my sort of things towards. I honor you.
We timed ourselves, and we were tight with each other.
We were tight.
Okay, we've got 3 minutes left.
Yeah, we were, and Chris and I are chatty Cathy's. You guys on here know me well enough to know that I'm a chatty Cathy. So we really had to make like conscious efforts to not just completely nerd out and keep talking, but to get them to those two goals that we had, which was the doing and the sharing and the chatting afterwards. So those were, you know, two goals that we knew we needed to get in order to be successful on this task. So we definitely were like timing each other, nudging each other, you know, things like that.
That takes, and it takes humility as a teacher. I'd love to bring more people in on this. I see Aisha has something to share, and bringing Aisha into the conversation. Hold on just a second. You may now unmute.
Okay, fabulous. Oh my God. I am so glad I jumped in. I was like, I can't do any more Zoom, but how could I miss the Educator Forum? Love it. Love hearing about it, both because it's nature journaling and I will be prepping teacher trainings down the road. So this is all so much food for thought. And I'm going to want to know if I can tap into you later as well for a one-on-one. But just in the moment, I have nothing to share. I'm not doing an I notice. I have questions.
Okay, go for it.
Fear of the question. One of them was, I'll share all three and you order however you want. One, what were your discussion prompts at the end? How long, given limitations of time, did you allow for the discussion? Because I keep running into that too. I prep a 3-hour workshop and then they're like, oh, you have 1 hour. And it's like, don't throw out the discussion, you know? And my other big question was the task cards. Did you let people choose? Or if you were doing this again and still had limited time, could you see it working as a session where, and then this is again me figuring out some of my own teacher trainings of just because of limitations of time, just being like, here's the language prompts, here's the science prompts, here's some other prompts, go look through them, see what fits with your curriculum, choose one, you have 20 minutes, you're teaching 3rd grade, you're doing adaptations, grab that one, dive into it. You're teaching poetry, 5th grade. Do you see that kind of working, or is that kind of what you did?
Yeah, great question.
Some actually,
There was
some
2
didn't
kindergarten.
give a choice. We just were handing out, and then others said, "I'm teaching kindergarten," so we gave them that specifically.
Yeah.
So really, it was very random. But yes, certainly. I mean, we could certainly give more choice at another one.
We
if
could give more.
somebody
We
do
didn't.
something.
I would say we really randomly did it, and I would say, I think we might have did. Did we ask if they were elementary or high school when they arrived? I don't remember if we did, but for
I
us,
did know.
I
because
think so.
sometimes- Yeah.
Yeah. So in elementary here, most of them teach the core courses that we had themes for. So no matter what theme they got, they would have been teaching that no matter what. Whereas at a high school level, it would be different, and I would think that we would probably have to be more specific. But at an elementary level, because they're teaching the core ones, then I think we were just like random, like get it going, and we wanted them to get out there. In terms
Nice.
of time, I want to say, I think we left 25 minutes. No, wasn't it?
Within the
It was like
hour?
20 minutes in the beginning, then 20, and so that would have left, probably 25, 30 minutes for discussions, I would say.
Pretty
And
good.
again, we went late.
Hour.
We went late. People definitely were late for their next one because they didn't stop talking. So,
we did say,
but we gave them,
they're free to go.
yes.
And then those who wanted to stay and discuss more did.
I can't hear you at all. Sorry. I don't know why the mic's on.
Okay, I'll be okay. So Chris was just saying, at the end of our hour, we gave people the option that they were free to go to their next one, but if they wanted to stay, they could stay and chat with us. And I would see a good portion of the group stayed and chatted further with us. And then people were asking to really look through our journals and really kind of diving into like what we were thinking and what that looked like. So we definitely probably went over, but the core of those groups we really did in that 1 hour. No, and our so to answer your other question about the prompts for discussion, we really just left it kind of open. We didn't want to put it too specific. So when we asked them to come back in their little groups, what we did was we asked them to share what they did, like how they implemented that task card, because everybody actually did it totally different, right? Which is classic nature journaling, that nobody's going to do the same thing. So even though they all had graphing, they all graphed something differently, right? Even though they all had biodiversity, they all did the biodiversity card differently. And that was the beauty of it. So they were able to share that. And then we brought them back as a whole group. We asked a representative from each group to sort of give like a little bit about what they kind of learned and then how they might have been able to integrate that into their teaching, if that makes sense. So I would say, what was your experience? How was it? And then how would you integrate it as a tool? Because that was our overall theme. Yeah, so they were small groups and then they came back as like one big, huge group as well. So the themed groups, like everybody who had graphing or math went together and had a discussion, and then, et cetera, and then everybody came back together, because if you were somebody who just got the language card, then you missed out on the math part. So we wanted them to be able to find out what it was like to have the math card. So we really wanted to make sure that everybody came back and they at least heard some of what other people were doing and discussed, kind of thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Does that answer all your questions?
That did.
Okay,
But then I had one more added on to that. Sorry, I don't know if there's a bunch of hands up, but Oh, no, they're not. Okay, I'm good. The other, and thank you for helping us sort of visualize it, really, you know,
Sure.
how it's flowing. That's great. So my question has often been, you said you shared some of your nature journal pages. Did you wait till towards the end? Because I feel like those can influence the direction people might.
Yeah, we had them.
take.
Yeah, we had them on the table just as there, but it wasn't until the end when people really started to look through them. Because then we were able to give examples of where we had used some of these themes with students or even with ourselves. So it was more like it was there on the table, and we said, hey, at the end, you can come and look through our nature journaling kits and see that you really don't need a ton of stuff. We had like 12 rolls with a couple of pencil crayons and pencils, and you know, we used different journals so that we showed that, and then also said, you know, a paper and a paper clip or clipboard is going to work just as fantastic, but the teachers didn't need to go to their admin and then ask money for a whole bunch of stuff, right? They just needed the kids to have a pencil, a paper, and a clipboard. And then obviously if they have coloring stuff and a ruler, that's an asset, but that you can also use body parts and things like that to help you with your rulering, right? So there was different ways of doing that.
Yeah, certainly. I just did clipboards and papers with my students.
Yeah.
Because it was actually fun. I know there's the people really believe in the journal, but we liked the freedom to just carry it wherever, didn't worry if it got wet, didn't ruin their whole journal that got left out. And then as a big activity, it was like, put it together and do it how you want to put it together. Do you want to do it chronologically? Do you want, you know, your favorite pieces in the front? Do you want it by theme? Because we study different things over the year. What themes do you see? And that was like this beauty of having it just loose sheets of paper. And I can imagine like voices in this disagreeing with me, but I like to.
Well, you know what? Even Roseanne Hanson, she does hers in like a binder type thing, and she takes her papers out and then archives them individually. I think it's just like depends on you as a person, depends on what you like to do, right? Which I think in the chat, people are asking me about Jillian's name. The woman from BC for the walking curriculum. I'll put it in the chat and I'll put her Twitter handle in there as well. So I'll do that just in one quick sec. So I do see your question and I will answer that and get that information to you. Is there anybody else that has questions, or did you have anything else, Aisha? Jack, go for it.
I'm good. Thank you so much.
I saw that Kate had a question. Kate, do you want me to ask it for you, or can we bring you on?
Oh, we have to ask for unmuted.
I don't need to ask. Actually, it was nicely answered by Margarita. So thank you. I'm good.
Oh, okay. Good.
Then I'll also just, I'd actually love to hear you folks share your thoughts on that. It was a question about, sometimes it's hard for people to find the thing, right? The phenomenon to look at. Did you give any prompting to help people do that, or any strategies to help? Because sometimes people are just kind of looking around trying to figure out what they should do, and that takes up such a big chunk of that 20 minutes that you've got out there. Did you?
I think because of the way our task cards were written, we gave examples right on the task cards, right? So if it was adaptations, we said, look for like squirrels, look for birds, look for leaves. So we tried to give those little tidbits of help right on the task card to try and eliminate that, like looking and searching and trying to finding the perfect thing. And so even with the graphing, we tried to give them examples of things to look at to graph. With the mapping, again, we tried to give them a few examples on every single one so that they searching, if that makes sense and helps answer that question. And as adults, yes, adults do. Yeah, adults sometimes can overthink things even more than a child can.
So what I'm seeing here is, in addition to this very kind of carefully planned out time where you're giving time for them to do and to reflect, you also then had prepared these materials that get some of that teaching and scaffolding into their hands. So you didn't have to throw that all into the session. So thinking about how the scaffolding that you put into the cue cards that people go out and romp with, then that's addressing how you find your topic and kind of what to focus on. That is that is making those streamlined and specific. I think that's really interesting. At what point?
And then we laminated everything as well, so that no matter the weather, that we could do this. So everything is laminated, so it's reusable. And then if it was wet or raining or it's winter, we can run this idea with teachers as well.
Yeah. At what point did you pass out the little zine that you made?
At the very end, that was sort of like our sort of end part, as like, here's a takeaway, because the task cards came back to us, but we still wanted them to be able to go home with something that kind of put it into hopefully like an easy sort of little package, right? So that zine was handed out at the end.
So really well thought out progression of when you're giving supporting materials.
Yeah, and then Chris was just saying as well, so we then took down emails. And so if there was anybody who was interested in getting that information digitally, we did share digitally as well.
Interesting. This is impressive.
Oh, so somebody asked if we filmed the presentation, and we didn't. Sorry, Jack, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
Oh, no, I was just going to encourage people, if you have any questions or thoughts, what we're really kind of stewing into here is, what does, if you're going to do for teachers this little kind of tight nature journaling unit, what are the best practices of it? I think we're seeing a few of those pieces here. I want to encourage other people to either raise their hand or to use the raise hand function or the raise hand to kind of get some more ideas. Like, are there any other ideas of things like what I really want in this session? We've got critical ingredients here, little bit of introductory stuff, then with the support of a card doing it, then having an opportunity to reflect in small group discussions, then in large group discussions. So you're even scaffolding that. So that allows more participation of everybody, and then they go away with a little zine. That structure, crazy cool. I want to find out, are there any other elements that other people are thinking, but I really want to have this in it? And what else are people thinking about, like the ultimate perfect, you've got 1 hour, now go teach some teachers how to do this. So just throwing this open to the room.
We want to steal some more notes, so everybody get in here and give us your ideas. Share.
Yeah, folks, don't bogart your best ideas.
Yeah, come on. Everyone's so quiet today.
This is really atypical for this group.
Yes.
But that is no longer the case. Rosa is in the house. I'm going to add you to the spotlight, and you can now unmute. Rosa, thank you.
Hi, I'm so sorry I missed last week, but holiday stuff, and if the room is too quiet, I need to find some words. So things I was asking in the chat were about slightly tangential, but when you have that moment, right, when you've got somebody who has actually said to you, what is nature journaling? Maybe they see you out with your notebook. I desperately want like that 1-page zine that you fold up and then it's cute, because like people dig little cute zines, right?
Totally.
And so you've already made one for this purpose of addressing the teachers. That's super awesome. And I love the focus here on, you've got an hour to teach some teachers how do you fill their heads without making their heads completely explode, right? So I really loved the balance of what you described about how you had some time outside and some time just talking and some time with the discussion. But the thing I want to highlight, and I'm not a graphic designer, so I don't think this is my personal job, but I'll hand out 100 of them, is having a sheet that is either one of those cute little guys that you can fold up into a zine, that is the thing you can just hand somebody when they're like, well, what is nature journaling? instead of like, okay, so here you go to John Muir Laws's website, and then on the sidebar, you go to the thing. I've
That's a
certainly
great
done that with
idea.
many people. Now we can send them to the foundation website, which is already a plus. But I think having a
Yeah.
handout will be like some people's jam.
That's a great idea. I mean, I just made it in Publisher, like super easy. It's not a tough thing to make, but it's definitely can be, some of it can stay the same and some of it can be changed. So I think that's a great idea, and we would be happy to share that as a template.
Let me. I'll just put my email in the chat, and maybe
Yeah, I can send it to Avea, and she's got the contact list for everybody as well. So Avea can send it out because she's like a master at that. So we're totally willing to share all of it.
Awesome.
No problem at all. Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna go back off video.
Okay, thanks. Bye, Rosa.
Not my favorite thing. Multitasking is so not my favorite thing. Like, you do everything a little less well, right, when you're multitasking. But
Yeah. Hi,
some
Kate.
days. Anyway, good to see you. I'm so glad
Good to see you as well, Rosa.
It's such important work.
Thank you.
Oh, I had one more thing to share with the group, actually. I went to a conference briefly. I didn't know it was a thing we wanted to have a presence at, or I would have talked, like to the foundation and like said, oh, hey, can I represent the foundation at this thing? It was called the Aspiration Tech Conference. I'll drop a link in the chat. It's a conference where people working with nonprofits or who are part of nonprofits talk about technology and how to have technological infrastructure to support the goals of their nonprofits. And so it's people from things as disparate as, like, I don't know, helping Chinese journalists, or, helping climate activists in Florida, or whatever. I mean, I heard the most amazing projects people described. The reason I got there in the last day was that I had a friend visiting from out of town to go to this conference, and I hadn't asked about it. I was just like, oh, you're going to some work conference thing. And it was really like the night before the last day that I was like, hey, what is this conference you're at? And they said, oh, you know a couple people at it. And I was like, okay, tell me more. And they told me more, and I was like, oh, surprise, I'm coming to your conference tomorrow. It was an unconference style, so people put forward their topics, and then other people gather around the topics. I only got to go to one talk or group. It wasn't a talk, right? It was a let's do a thing together thing. And it was on storytelling for fundraising. It was amazing. I look forward to telling folks more about it another time. But when it was my call to introduce myself, I said, hi, I'm working with the Wild Wonder Foundation. And I think that this is a fruitful group to have some engagement with. Not necessarily for a particular technological ask, but just to have all of that energy about what they're doing to make their nonprofits work well, and all the stuff. So a new place to spread the word, and so that's what I've been up to. I'm going to go back off video though.
That's amazing. Thanks for sharing, Rosa.
Of course, this is awesome stuff.
Hi, Kate.
Hi.
I have to ask a question first. Are you on the island where the volcano is erupting right now?
I am not on the same island, but I'm trying to get there.
Okay.
No, I'm on a different
A
island.
girl who worked here is visiting Hawaii, so we were like, I'll just ask Kate. I don't know which island she's on, but I'll ask Kate.
Yeah. I'm on Oahu, so all right.
Oahu, okay.
Actually, I just found out that one of the nearby volcanoes isn't considered technically dormant. It's just been like not active for the past 10,000 years, but that they're like, but it's not guaranteed. It won't go off again. Oh, that's fun. That's where I live. But yeah, it's been 10,000 years. Yeah. So it's actually, for people who don't know, it's Mauna Loa, and it is a shield volcano. So it's not this like really, the eruption isn't as violent as some people imagine when they hear volcanoes. It's like a slower process. I mean, you certainly don't want to be right there on the summit while that's happening. But and the danger is it is flowing towards the main road that connects the two different sides of the island. And then it's also flowing towards the military training area. So which has, yeah. So it's definitely something to watch and be aware of. Our main effect is the VOG, which is the volcanic fog. So our skies are really hazy and it's affecting people with asthma and stuff, but we do get beautiful sunrises and sunsets. But yeah. So no, I'm safe. Thank you for asking. So I had two questions. One was kind of related to what Rosa was talking about, is I'm trying to put in an application to present at an unconference next summer. I went this summer and I was like, oh my God, you guys need to know about nature journaling. And so I'm trying to submit for that. So I just was curious about like what you guys use for your like proposal for the conference and like how you advertise and explained it to like conference attendees. Cause that's where I'm at right now. I'm just sitting there staring at my computer screen going, oh, I don't know, it's cool. And then my other, you asked for like other different prompts is when I was looking at the prompts, I didn't really see one that was like very pictures focused. And so everybody knows me as the art teacher. And so then they, whenever I am doing some sort of presentation, they're like, oh, but I don't know how to draw. And so I definitely bring up all these other things, but I think people are secretly hoping that they'll have, they kind of want something that is like a simple arts-based prompt that they can feel confident and successful and realize like, it's not this huge bar, it can be much, it's just something like an entry level. It's a way of just recording what you're observing. So yeah.
So to answer that question, I just, give me 2 seconds. We totally got this idea from you. And so this is what we did for kindergarten. So not only did they have a task card, but each kindergarten teacher was given a page as well. And so this was much more focused on the picture and less on the words, because of the kindergarten level, they don't have the words. So there was this one here, like the number of the week is 3. So they had to draw a picture of 3 flowers. They had to draw a picture of 3 insects. They had to draw a picture with 3 leaves. And what we wanted them to do was really focus in on the details of what exactly they were seeing. We also did one for all about color. So they had to draw something that was green, something that was brown, something that was yellow, and something that was purple and pink. We tried to find those colors based on the colors that we thought they would find in the fall here of where we were. That's why we picked those colors. And then this one here, they had to do textures. So they had to draw something that they saw that was smooth, fluffy, pointy, hard, etc. So this is the one where we really focus on the pictures. Does that sort of help? We totally stole it from you. This is totally you.
No, I love it. You took what I did and you took it to like a whole nother level. And I love it. That is the best.
Yeah, so we were like, let's take like Kate's idea of having those different shapes and then adding in again about the details. And then on the task card, we explained what it meant by lots of detail. So on that kindergarten task card was where we said, what does a lot of detail mean? And it means that we're looking for the shapes, we're looking for the size, we're looking for the colors, we're looking for, the counting of how many things they were doing. So we did explain that in that task card as well, if that helps.
Yeah, no, these are really cool to see. Thank you. That is helpful.
Also, we stress, like we all do, that it's not about the pretty picture. So we did talk about that a fair bit in our introduction, just to remind people not to be overwhelmed, and especially like, oh my gosh, they see Billie Jo's incredible nature journal. It's so fantastic. But, there can be that sense that, oh, I can't do that. I can't, this is beyond me. So this is not for me. So we were very conscious of reminding, and several times, not about that. This is about observations, just getting that out of your mind and onto that page, however you can. But Kate, I myself with classes have done things that are more art-based somewhat, just helping students to figure out, like if we're drawing the fox mount, how they don't even know where to begin. So sometimes just starting that way, giving some basics of shape and contour drawings and that sort of thing. But we certainly did it with the adults because sometimes they can be more intimidated.
And in terms of for us, this is a pretty easygoing conference to be able to. Bye guys. It's a pretty easy conference to be able to apply for. So it's a Google form, and we wrote a blurb about nature journaling and integrating it in as a tool, and sort of what it was. It was pretty easy. Like, it wasn't a conference that you like have to do pages and pages. It's pretty simple. They're pretty laid back. I can share it with you, but again, it's pretty simple. You'll be like, oh, this is all you had to do. So it's pretty simple, but I can totally share it if you want to. It's really just a little paragraph. And then we just tell them that we want to be outside for the whole thing, if we can be, and tell them that they need to have, a journal of some sort or a pen and paper, because they will be spending time journaling as well. So just giving them, it's a pretty easy. And then when you get to the conference, so on their website, they highlight everybody who's going to be at the conference with those blurbs, and then they kind of start to fill in. No, they don't tell you the time until they get there. They don't tell you the time that you're presenting until you get there. So then what they do is they stick them up on the windows, and then everybody has like a mad rush to try and sign up. And so that is kind of the fun of this crazy conference that we go to. But that's kind of how it's done. Yeah, we're outdoor runners. It's all a little bit crazy. So hopefully that answers your question there.
But
Yes.
Kate, you raise a really good idea, something that would be useful for us to have, say on the Wild Wonder website or on my website. And if there is anything that kind of fits any of these qualities there, just kind of grab and go definitions and descriptions that anybody can use for doing exactly this sort of thing. So you don't have to kind of reinvent the wheel in these descriptions. So it would be, if you see anything like that on my website or the Wild Wonder Foundation's website, please, you are invited to grab that and use that. But we should also kind of behind the scenes think of kind of creating a resource sheet for people doing exactly what you're doing, so that it's easier to do that. That's really cool that you're going to be presenting that.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I have to get it together. I'm also trying to do an after school program starting in the spring here. And so going through the waiver process, going through all of that sort of thing, and then advertising, it's been a whole thing. I was going to post what I have come up with so far to the group. But then the school had asked, instead of having paying a facility rental fee, especially since I'm not going to be indoors, it's all going to be outdoors. They have like an outdoor gazebo and everything. And I'm not going to be in any of the classrooms. That they said, instead of doing a rental fee, we'd love for you to donate something to the school, like a piece of art or a free class or something. And so what I was going to donate after hearing this, I'm like, oh, I should just, offer to do a PD class with any of the teachers as kind of like so, and say like, this is what we've been doing in our class, and this is why I think it's important. This is how you could do it in your classroom too. And so yeah, so this is awesome. Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah, and wouldn't it be neat if, as we're doing these sorts of things, we kind of had a repository where if I made some things for a workshop and here's the zine I used, I could put it in there, and other educators could then take that, or oh, I like the language that you used, kind of a collection bin of little independent resources that we make that then could be repurposed.
Are we able to maybe do something like that, like a Google folder or a Google Doc? Are we able to do that through like a Google folder somehow, or a Google Doc, where everybody would have access and then be able to sort of drop things into it? Like that could be really helpful maybe. And then I like Rosa's idea too, and I think we've talked about this in previous educator forums about coming up with that elevator speech, right? About what would be good. So maybe it is creating something like that little zine, and then if people want, they can print it off, and if they don't, then they could maybe just use some of the language off of it or whatever to create their own little like elevator speech or whatever like that. So
Yeah.
that could be like really helpful. I think would be awesome.
That's good. The more that we make, that just makes it easier for us to like here, like this kind of like, it was great that Kate was on and you were on, because Kate had given you the ideas to do these little things. You then took that, modified it. Kate's like, oh, that's a great idea. I want to use that. And over here, a kind of a place where all of our ideas are kind of popping in there for us to repurpose and to grow with.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. It'd be so great.
So let's, so I'm going to say Wild Wonder website, resource, an educator resource room. As a little to-do, I'm going to put a little to-do box by that in my notes here. And we can make things like this happen. So to be respectful of everybody's time today, I think we should soon bring this discussion to a close. I want to thank both of you for both presenting that to that group of teachers, not in Alaska, and as well as sharing it with us and giving us some of your thoughts around it. I am really motivated and inspired by this idea that you got your initial info section down to, it sounds like it was around 10 minutes, then 20 minutes outside, 30 minutes for discussion. That really says
when you say it aloud, it sounds insane.
It's brilliant. But it also sort of shows that, you know, you're putting your time where it counts, and it takes such discipline and humility to do that. So mad respect to you. I am way too long-winded. All right. Before we wrap here, I'm just going to bounce over to the gallery one more time to see if there's a critical thought or idea that somebody has that they wanted to share.
I think Kate Rudder in the chat, I think you made a really important point there that maybe you'd want to just say out loud so that it's on the video. That would be awesome. Your last comment there, I think, is really important. If you're okay with that, Kate. Yeah, she's good with that. I'm just going to bring you into the spotlight. Hold on. Add you in. There you are. And ask to unmute.
There we go.
There you go.
There we go. Yeah, because of this generosity and the sharing culture that is so fundamental to nature journaling community. And also people are forming livelihoods based on their creative output and sharing that in various different ways. And so I think it's a really interesting and timely topic to discuss appropriate use, how we trace and give attribution, whether it's a shout out, whether it's a revenue share. There's really good models out there that I think we might play around with some ideas, because appropriate use and appropriative use are really not only up to us as individuals, it's part of a conversation with the creator of that material and the sources that go into it. So in order to maintain our posture and our foundational kind of gift and generous and kindness economy, we also need to be respectful about people's unique works. And I think it's an interesting topic.
I think it's a great topic. I think it's really important that you brought that up. This is why I wanted to bring you into that as well. Because it comes up, right? Like all the time, people are like, are you okay to share that? And we're always like, I think so. Like we did it at work, sure. Like it's, but yeah, you're right. Like a lot of people are doing it for their livelihood, and that creates a whole different thing, right? So I think it's a really great topic of conversation for sure.
Thank you for that idea.
That's great.
So why don't we have that conversation in an educator forum, and then develop that room of those spaces based on the guidance of the thinking about that. And if down the line we figure out that that's not working, change it.
Change it. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Yeah, love it.
All right, thank you so much, Kate. Thank you so much. Let's also, I'm going to bring in the Mad Botanist. Bink. Hey, Thank you folks so much for being here, helping form, guide these conversations. I feel so lucky to be in this really generous and thoughtful and creative community. And what you were doing, what you did at that conference was a really good thing. And what you did then sharing that with us like this was a really good thing. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us. We had a fun time. So thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It was great seeing everybody.
And final thought from Uvea.
Okay, so also another thing, and hopefully this is okay and I'm not embarrassing you, but Billie Joe thought we wouldn't notice that a week ago was her birthday.
Oh!
Yeah, she thought she could slip that by us, you know.
All
So
right.
I wanted to say, who wants to do a scary sing along where we all sing Billie Joe happy birthday?
All right, I have just allowed everybody to unmute themselves. And this is always a crazy cacophony when people try to do this on Zoom. It never works, which is part of the joy of it. So with feeling. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Billie Joe. Happy birthday to you.
Oh my God. Thank you so much. You guys are so blushing. I am embarrassed. Thank you very, very much. I really appreciate that very much. Thanks, everyone.